Hello and welcome. Good to see you guys today. Hope everyone's doing well. As soon as you have a chance to get settled, go ahead and pop into the chat where you're joining us from. And if there's anything specific that you'd like to learn more about today, would love to hear from each and every one of you. Welcome, welcome. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started today. This is the Getting Started with Mylio Photos webinar. My name is Angela Andrew, and we're going to be talking about what is Mylio Photos and some steps to get you up and running successfully. Everything from why you need to create an account, how to install and set up the software, and getting your photos and videos into Mylio Photos so you can actually enjoy them and browse them and find them when you want them. We'll also go over some resources so you can learn more and ways to get help if you need it moving forward. I want to take a moment and say hello to Marilyn, Deb, Kelly. Great to see you guys. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump in. As I mentioned, my name is Angela. I'm a product evangelist for Mylio Photos, and what that means is I'm here to help you. I do a lot of education tutorials, write a lot of the documentation. If you've ever dug into our massive product manual, you can blame me for that. I also do my own photography. I'm a fine art photographer. I love taking pictures. I love creative image editing. And I've been teaching people about photography, photo management for many, many years. So I'm very eager to help you get up and running with Mylio Photos. I love it. And I've actually converted my workflow to be around Mylio Photos personally, in addition to professionally. So I hope you guys enjoy it and really get into knowing what the product's all about and are successful. A few things before we dive into the meat of the presentation. We have a Q&A pod, so that's going to be the best place if you have specific questions that you want me to answer. Go ahead and pop those into the Q&A. I keep an eye on those, and it's the best way for me to keep track of them. You're also welcome to put questions into the chat, but sometimes if things get really busy there, things can get buried very easily. So I want to make sure your questions get answered. So the Q&A is the best place to put those. And I'd also like to get a little bit more information about where you are in your journey with Mylio Photos. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll here really quick. And I'll give you a couple of minutes here to fill in those questions. Basically, I'm just looking to know how long you've been using Mylio and if there's anything specific that you need help with. I did see in the chat that Marilyn's looking forward to getting installed and set up, so we'll make sure we go over that. We'll give it a moment here and let everybody get answers in. Wonderful. Appreciate the feedback. All right. Just a few more seconds here. Looks like we have a lot of different people at different levels with Mylio, even some that have been using the product for more than 6 months. So hopefully those of you who are experienced, if you see questions in the chat that you can answer, please feel free to jump in and do that. So let's go ahead and end that. I appreciate the feedback. Give you guys a chance to see the results there for a second. And now we'll go ahead and dive in to learning more about Mylio Photos. If for some reason you have to step away from the computer and aren't able to watch the whole thing, or maybe you're already watching the video, you can always find our webinar replays at community.mylio.com. Just scroll down on the left sidebar under topics and webinar replays, and you're going to find all of our past webinars listed there. So that's where today's recording will go, probably within the next week or so. All right. So what is Mylio Photos? Well, it's a tool to help you manage a lifetime of your photos, videos, and basically your memories. It brings all of your photos into one secure and connected library that you can access from all of your devices. It turns all of your phones, computers, tablets into a system for managing those photos and gets everything accessible from one location. It's insanely powerful, and I think you're really going to love how connected everything is, how accessible everything is, and know that everything is protected and backed up on devices that you control. All right, so a few points to know. You can fit even the largest photo library on your laptop or phone, believe it or not. We have great search tools to help you find photos when you need them, because what good is a photo if you're looking for it and you can't find it? We have great facial recognition, text recognition, GPS tagging. You can add camera data and much, much more. Editing is super simple. We've got some great tools built into the product. And we also work really well with external editors. I mentioned earlier that I'm a big fan of creative image editing. That means I use a lot of tools like Photoshop and Luminar and Radiant, all these other fun creative editing tools, Mylio works wonderfully with them. It's also really easy to edit on mobile devices, whether it's in the Mylio app, or if you want to use things like Snapseed or Photoshop Express, whatever the app of choice is, most likely Mylio can work with it. And that brings me to this next point, is that you get full access to your library without the need for an internet connection or paying extra for cloud storage. So that way, no matter which device you're using, you have access to your photos. We also have tools built in to help you protect your photos from device failure or loss. And that means having backups, having peace of mind, knowing that your images are safe. It's huge. I don't know how many people I've come across that have lost pictures to, maybe they dropped their cell phone off a boat into the ocean or a lake, or maybe their laptop got stolen from the coffee house, or maybe they had something really catastrophic happen, like their house burned down. To know that your photos are backed up and safe is truly a precious gift that you can have for yourself and for your legacy for the next generation. So let's get started with Mylio Photos. The first thing you're going to need is a Mylio account. And the reason you need an account is because Mylio is an application and a service. Excuse me. Let me get a drink of water here. Well, what does it mean, an application and a service? The application is what you download to your computer, to your phone, etc. And the service is what allows all of those devices to talk to each other. So not only are we building new tools into the application itself, but we're also maintaining the service that allows all of those devices to talk together securely and to keep all of your data safe as it transfers back and forth. It's a really huge thing. And that's why we need to create an account, is because that's what allows all of your devices to see each other. So to do that, all you need to do is go to the mylio.com website. Up in the upper right, you can go ahead and log in or create an account. And once you do that, you're going to have the option to download Mylio Photos. The page that pops up will give you the option to download for your detected device. So let's say you're on a Windows computer, it'll offer you the Windows version, Mac computer, Mac version. If you're starting out from a mobile device like a tablet or a phone, you can get the app from the App Store for Apple or the Google Play Store. All of them are great. You just need that account to log in once you download and install the software, and you'll be good to go. So once you get the install going, you're going to look on your computer for a download file in your downloads folder. For Windows, you're going to look for the Mylio_x64. And for Mac, you're going to look for the Mylio.dmg. Double click on that file and then follow the on-screen instructions to get that installed. Once you do, you're going to be able to launch the app, enter that username and password, and we'll walk through that process here in just a moment. Let me take a look here at the chat and make sure everything is going well. All right, no new questions yet, so let's go ahead and move on. So the initial setup, when you get into Mylio Photos, you're going to be asked a series of questions. So let's go ahead and jump over to the software and let's walk through that together. So when you first launch Mylio Photos, this is what you see. You get a welcome screen, and you can go ahead and click Next and enter in your Mylio password and username. So let me go ahead and do that really quick. I can type. There we go. And now we're in. So now Mylio knows that this device is connected to my account, and any other devices that I sign in with that username and password are all going to talk to each other when the Mylio app is open. So let's go ahead and get this configured. You're going to have to tell Mylio where your photos are stored and set up what we call the Mylio library folder. So I'm going to click through these screens fairly fast and get to the point where we have to make a decision. But I want to talk a little bit about the Mylio library folder and the implications. So let me go ahead and get here to the point where we have to choose our Mylio library folder. And I'm going to jump back to the presentation here for a second and talk about this. So the Mylio library folder is your default location for all of your future imports. But that doesn't mean you can't import something to a different location. It's just the default. So it doesn't have to be, don't feel like if you don't get it right, you're going to have to start over. It's not a big scary thing, but just know that it's going to be the default location. The next choice is, where should this be located? This is a little bit more important because we want to make sure you have enough room for your photos. You want to make sure you have plenty of storage for additional photos that you're going to bring in, so you don't run out of space over time. So a good place for this is going to be an external hard drive with a lot of space, or if you have a desktop computer with a big hard drive, that's also a great place for a Mylio library folder. So let's go ahead and run through that scenario and choose that option. So in here, I'm going to go ahead. I want to create a new folder. And this is what I recommend for most people is to start fresh. You're going to start with an empty library and bring things in bit by bit. If you select an existing folder that already has everything very, very well organized, which is definitely an option, you can do that. Just know that that import process can take a long time, especially if your library is large. Sometimes it's better to create a new folder and add things incrementally so you can actually enjoy the program while it's ingesting those things, as opposed to having to wait a long time for that first initial import. So I like to create a new folder and hit next. Now it's going to suggest a location here for you, and I'm going to actually change that because I want to change that to a brand new external hard drive that I got specifically for the purpose of organizing and backing up my photos. So let's go ahead and choose a Mylio library folder location. I'm going to go down and choose new hard drive. That's just what I happen to call this drive. You can call your drive whatever you want. I called mine new hard drive. So let's go ahead and choose open. And it wants me to choose a folder inside of that. So let's try this one more time. Again, I'm going to choose new hard drive, then I'm going to choose new folder. And we'll just call this Mylio. You can call it again, whatever you like. So let's choose create and open. So here's the path for my new Mylio library folder. It's going to be on my new hard drive in the folder called Mylio. Looks good. So this is going to set up Mylio Photos installation for me. There we go. We're successful. We can say got it. And now we're given the opportunity to install the sample library. This is a great way for you to poke around and see what an organized Mylio library looks like. It has a ton of great pictures of a variety of subjects, and everything is already organized so you can see what that's supposed to look like. It is very easy to install and even easier to get rid of. So it won't make a mess on your computer. It won't leave behind residual things. I encourage you to go ahead and install that sample library. So let's jump back over here to the presentation. We talked about creating a new folder or choosing an existing folder. I'm always a big proponent, even if you're already fairly organized, to just create that new folder. It just makes things cleaner and easier during the first installation. Choosing an existing folder isn't the wrong answer. It just takes a bit longer to do. So we already talked about instead of installing the sample library. If you want to go ahead and bring your own pictures in right away and you don't care about it, you can always skip this step. You don't have to install the sample library, but that's what we're going to poke through today so I can show you what the library looks like. So now that that's happening, I'm going to switch back over here to Mylio, and you can see that there's some stuff that's happened. We've got some pictures now, and I'm just going to click through these blue boxes. And I do encourage you to read these and pay attention to them when they pop up. I know that it's very easy for us as computer users. If you've been doing this a while, you just click through those. You don't really read them, but there is some good information there. So I do encourage you, when those pop up, pay attention. But for now, let's go ahead and switch over to our All Photos view and take a look at our already organized library. So this is the sample library. Right now, I'm looking at All Photos, which has everything. When you bring photos into Mylio, everything you bring in, regardless of the source, is all going to end up in the All Photos view. And these are just different ways of viewing and interacting with your photos. Nothing has been moved. So to give you an idea, let's jump over here to folders. And these are actually going to be reflecting folders that are on your hard drive. The way Mylio works is Mylio itself does not hold your pictures. Mylio points to where your pictures are on your hard drives. So if you delete something in Mylio, it's going to delete it on your hard drive. So that's something to be aware of. Sometimes people get confused, and let's say they bring in a bunch of pictures off of their desktop. Well, they figure they're in Mylio so they can delete them. Well, it depends on how you added them. If you just linked them from that location, if you delete them there in Mylio, they're going to get deleted from your desktop too. So just be careful and know that the actions you take in Mylio are actually affecting the files in your file system. So that's something very important to understand. So up here on the left, this is our Mylio library folder where we told it we want our default location for imports to be. Then we have this cool thing called the Mylio inbox. And let me show you where this ends up in your file system. So I'm going to grab a file finder window, and this would apply if you're on Microsoft and a Windows location. You're going to end up with a Mylio inbox here in your favorites. And this is just a place for you to put things. If you want to quickly bring something into Mylio that was scattered around on your computer, you can simply drop it in this folder and it'll get brought into your Mylio your Mylio Photos Library. And you'll find it right here in the Mylio inbox. Right now we have shared content, that's our sample library. So that's what we're looking at here. And we can take a look and dive into all of these that have many, many different subfolders. And you can always back out using that back arrow in the upper left. So we've taken a look at all photos and we've taken a look at folders. Let's take a look at a couple of the more fun ways to view and interact with your images once they're in Mylio. One of my favorites is the calendar view. I'm going to double click on that, and that's going to bring me to what we call decade view, and I'm seeing essentially my life in photos. I can scroll back many, many years, and you can see that Mylio is also a great place to put those scan family photos, and even getting into some of those family history things, you can go back and back and back, and you can bring in a ton of information from your family's history and legacy into this program. We even have a category here at the top called undated. And for me, this is like my to-do list. So if I have pictures that I need to research, I don't know the exact dates of, so I can't change them, I can simply mark them as undated. So let's go ahead and take the example of this image here. Over under date created, you can see we have it marked as undated. If I learn what the date is for this, what I can do is click on the three dots here. I can choose a month or year. I can choose all sorts of different, let me go ahead and click out of that. I can choose all sorts of different ways to categorize this image to get the date more precise. If I know the exact date, I could even add the full timestamp. And when that happens, it'll take it out of that undated category on my calendar and put it where it belongs in the hierarchy for the time that it occurred. It's really quite cool. And as you go down through these images and you want to dig deeper into each year, you can go ahead and just double click on that year and see what happened each month. And let's go ahead and click on May. And we can see the things that are starting to populate on specific days. You can even go to a specific day and see all of the photos from that day. So without having to do anything, you haven't moved anything out of folders, you haven't had to drag and drop anything anywhere. Mylio already organizes things for you by date. It's incredibly powerful, and it's a great way to start exploring and finding things that you forgot about. So from there, the next thing I like to introduce people to is our people view. And this is one of the most fun ways to get into your library. Even if you're a landscape photographer, even if you're somebody who doesn't like to photograph people, chances are you have photographs of some of your most important people in your life in your cell phone, or maybe that you've downloaded from social media. We all have these photos, and the best thing is to be able to find those memories when we want to. So Mylio Photos make this very easy and lets you tag people using AI facial recognition. As it imports your photos, it's going to scan those photos, and if it recognizes that there's a face, it's going to give you the option to tag it. So to do that, you can go here to untagged, and you can see all of the faces that have yet to be tagged. If you want, you can go one by one, and let's go ahead and just click on this one here on the question mark, and I can type in that this is Carol. All right, I can select Carol from the list, and now that image has been tagged. But you can see that going through these one by one can be really time consuming. So a better way is to go up to our batch tagging icon, and this groups together similar faces. So I can look at this and go, you know what? I'm pretty sure these are all Colleen, and I can just type in at the top, Colleen, and there we go. All of those have now been tagged. I'm pretty sure these are all Michael. So let's go ahead and just type in Michael. Oops, if I can spell. There we go. And click Michael, and those have all been tagged. These are Michael a little bit older, and you can see how it's grouping together similar faces and lets you go through and tag these super, super fast. I've actually gotten my library down to about 100 untagged faces, and those faces are mostly just pictures that I'm like, I'm not sure who they are. They're historical images that I need to talk to family members and find out who these people are. And that's another thing to point out is face tagging isn't limited to your new digital photos. It also applies to all those old family photos that you've brought in that maybe you've scanned over the years, you've gotten from family. You can go through and tag those as well. And that way, those images now have information on who was in them, when they were taken, so you can pass that information along to the next generation. So much of our photographic knowledge gets lost generation to generation because things weren't documented. If you don't know who was in the picture, it's hard to want to save that picture if you don't know who it is. But if you know that's your great Aunt Jane, that makes it a little bit more important to you because now you know what she looks like. And with facial recognition, once you tag her once, Mylio will start to recognize her, and perhaps even find her in other images that you didn't even know she was in. It's really powerful and very, very fun. So it looks like we have a couple of questions here. Deb says, in the People tab on iPad Pro, anytime I use this section, the app crashes. I'm really sorry to hear that. So the best thing I can recommend to you on that is to get in touch with our support team. That'll let them look at your logs and figure out what's causing the crash so we can get it fixed. The best way to do that is going to be to go up here to the help icon and choose Contact Mylio Support. And they will help you. We've got a great team. You'll get through to a real human. So please go there and report the crash, and we'll do our best to get that resolved for you. All right, Marilyn, I understand that we can bring in photos from Facebook. Do we need to save it to our computer first and then import to Mylio? And what if the photo is at some point deleted from Facebook? Is it still in the Mylio folder? Great questions. So if you use our Facebook importer, it imports it directly into your Mylio library folder. So let me go ahead and X out of this here, and I'm going to go over here to folders. So what we're going to do is we can bring in our Facebook photos here to that Mylio library folder that we set up. You would just go up here to the Add Media button and choose to add media from an online service, and go here, choose Facebook. It will walk you through logging in and authorizing getting into your account, and it will download all of your pictures to your Mylio library folder. Those pictures are then stored locally on your machine. If they get deleted from Facebook, who cares? Because you have them safe on your machines. So hopefully that answers your question, Marilyn. All right, get those marked. Awesome. All right. Any other questions? Please make sure those get into the Q&A. Those were awesome questions. You can see we also have the option to download from Instagram, from Google Photos, and from Flickr. So if you have images that you've stored in some of these locations, I encourage you to go and pull them down and get them back on devices that you control. You never know what's going to happen with some of these online companies. And there might be pictures there that you uploaded that you no longer have the originals for. So you can find some really great stuff that you forgot you had by going and downloading from these sources. Let me go ahead and close out of that for now. And let's talk a little bit more about some of the areas of Mylio Photos that will be helpful to you. We've talked about the calendar and people. The map view lets you view all of your pictures on a map. So if they have GPS coordinates, you can see them on the map. And adding coordinates to pictures that don't have them is actually really, really easy. So most of us, if we're shooting with a cell phone, those are going to be automatically geotagged. But if you have a big camera or an older camera, or even an older cell phone, you might not have that information. And you certainly won't have that information if you're using scanned photos. So let's go over to all photos and let's find a couple of images that need some GPS tags. So looking at the screen, we right now have annotations turned on. Annotations are these little markers in the upper left corner that give information about a picture. So you can see this one here does not have GPS information. That's what the little pin means. And if you're not seeing those annotations, you can turn them on and off up here in the More menu and choose which annotations you want to see. So for right now, let's go ahead and grab this image of pelicans. And I'm fairly certain this one was captured up near Seattle. So what I'm going to do is go over to the Map tab, and I'm going to type in Seattle. And that's going to let me see, okay, Seattle, Washington, yep. And I can even zoom out a little bit here. I can grab this and I can make this a little bigger. So I'm looking at a slightly larger area. And we can even zoom out further. And you know what, maybe that was taken out here over near the beach. So we can grab that image out of the grid and just drag it onto the map. And let's say we think that was taken right about there. And go ahead and accept that. And now this image has GPS information. It's that easy. You can go ahead and get your images added to the map, no matter what camera you took them from. And you don't have to be super precise with this. What I like to do is when I travel, especially with my big camera, sometimes I will take a picture with my cell phone so I can get the exact coordinates, and then I can use that to copy it to my other pictures. But if I don't, I can just say, let's say I took a trip to London. I can just search for London on the map. Let's go ahead and pull that up. And there we go, London, UK. And I can even zoom out a little bit. And I could simply take a picture and drag it onto the map. That one already has a GPS tag, so it's already wanting to put it back where it was. but you get the idea. It's very easy to add that information to your photos. The last place here along the top I want to mention is the dashboard. And this is going to give you an idea of what's going on with Mylio Photos on your computer. What you're going to probably want to take a look at is your devices, and this is going to show you what devices you've added. So right now I've got my MacBook Pro, and I have that new hard drive that I added. As you add your phone, a tablet, you'll see all of these devices here. If you add extra hard drives and so forth, you'll see those listed here. And this is where you can manage how much space is being used and what their device role is. So you can see here on new hard drive, this is designated as a vault. A vault is any device that wants everything. So no matter where my pictures are located when I bring them in, everything is going to get saved to this vault, because this is going to create an archive of all of my pictures that are in Mylio Photos, no matter where they came from. So if I add another hard drive, I can make that a vault, or I can make that just linked, and it really depends on how Mylio interacts with it. So for instance, my computer, I don't want everything saved to my computer. I want Mylio to optimize my storage, because my entire library, there's no way it would fit on my laptop. So if I go to device quality, you can see it's auto optimized. If I switch this to a vault, it would want everything, and that would overwhelm the storage space. If you're very, very, very low on space, you can always switch it to thumbnails, and that will minimize the space used on that device. You can also go down to device storage, and you can adjust how much space you want Mylio to keep free. So the minimum free space is automatically set to auto manage, but you can go ahead and uncheck that and then change this to whatever threshold you want. So by moving this up, this is saying that I want Mylio to not touch 472 gigabytes. So you can say how much needs to stay free. Once you're done, go ahead and click Apply Changes, and that will adjust those settings for your computer. Again, if we go over here to the vault, my new hard drive, you can go to device quality. You can see that this one is set as a vault, or I can set it to thumbnails. This device, because I want it to hold everything, I'm going to keep that set as a vault. And then we're going to talk about another option here in just a second. I do see we've got a couple more questions here in the Q&A. So Marilyn says, photos without a date are grouped as unknown, so they can be easily found and if possible dealt with. Photos without geo need to be searched out individually, or is there a similar unknown group? Great question, Marilyn. So things that don't have a date, you actually have to mark them. So if you scan photos, the date embedded in that file is going to be the date that you scan them. So sometimes you're going to take a photo, and let's go ahead and jump over here to our folders. And I'm going to go into the sample library and into this folder of scans. So let's take a look at this image here, take a look at our info, and you can see that this has a time and date. Well, if that photo was scanned in 1998, not captured in 1998, that could make that image show up in the wrong place on the calendar. What you would do at that point is, if you need to research, then you would go up here to the three dots, scroll down to the bottom and mark it as undated, or you can simply adjust that if you know the information right away. And you don't have to do this one at a time. You can say, all right, all 6 of these images were captured around the same time. I want to make those all around, I know those were, let's say 1991. And we can go ahead and hit save, and that moves all of those images to 1991. So you do have to go through and address each one of those individually. It doesn't automatically know when they're undated. That's a marking you have to add in Mylio. So I'm sorry if that was unclear. So let's go ahead and mark that one as done. And then Darren, I've decided to rebuild Mylio on a new host computer today. Should I transfer the Mylio catalog or start again? I think I might build it source HDD by source HHD. If I start again, do I delete all the Mylio catalogs manually, or Mylio unload and delete itself on all devices? That's a big question, Darren. So what I would recommend is, if you're getting a new computer, what you can do is just simply download Mylio Photos on that new computer, log in with your username and password, and it will automatically start syncing things with your new computer. You can then take one of your vaults. If you have a vault set up that's connected to another computer, you can connect that vault to the new computer. Mylio will see it, and you'll have access to everything directly from that new computer. There are very rare occasions where you would need to rebuild everything from scratch. If you think that that's really necessary, I do encourage you to reach out to our support team, because there are some implications there. It can be done, but we definitely want to make sure it gets done right and we don't make a mess of things. So again, what I would do is go up to that help menu and choose Contact Mylio Support to get a little bit more guidance on there for your particular situation. All right. Awesome. So we've gotten a very good idea here of the general interface in Mylio Photos. A few other things that I want to point out to you. We've already talked about the help menu a couple of times. In there, you're going to find our how-to guide, which takes you right to our product manual. I'm going to go ahead and open that up really quick and bring that over here onto the screen. So this document has just about everything you would need to know about Mylio Photos. It's fully searchable. You can search here at the upper right, and you can also download it as a PDF if you prefer to work offline. And know that each one of these chapters has many sub-chapters. There's a ton of information here, so I encourage you to go in and explore and learn. There's great info there to help you make the most of the program. I also encourage you to join our community. So the Mylio Photos community is a lot of fun. You're going to go here and click join, but for right now, I'm just going to choose explore so I can point out a few fun things for you. Events is a great place to know what we have upcoming. So right now we're in this getting started webinar. We have coffee break coming up. We have a photo walk in San Diego, all sorts of great stuff. And we'll start populating our February events very, very soon. If you're looking for tutorials and courses, if you go into courses, we've got our Mylio Photos Fundamentals course. We have a great quick start guide. We have lots of tutorials. If you want to see previous coffee breaks, you can go ahead and click into coffee break recordings. And we've covered a ton of different topics. Some are really focused in on small areas of the program. Others talk about bigger photography concepts, organization, all sorts of fun stuff. If you want to see the replay of today's webinar, it'll be up probably mid next week, right here in webinar replays. And I also encourage you to join some of our groups. So the first one here, Mylio Photos Quick Questions. This is a great place to go if you have kind of brief questions about the app. If you're just learning how to use it and you want to know, is this the best way or is this the best way? Right here is a great place to ask. We also have different photography genre interest groups. So if you're interested in any of these topics, you can join as many as you like. You can share photos, ask questions about that particular theme. You're going to find me a lot in landscape photos, nature photos, occasionally in pet photos, travel for sure. And actually our head of customer success, he is an avid underwater photographer. So at Mylio, most of us are also photographers in addition to working for this software. So we love photos. We love our family legacies. It's definitely a work of passion for all of us. So I encourage you to join these and you can see what some of our team is up to, and you can share your own photos because we love seeing those. So those are some great resources you can find in the help menu. And then of course you have the Contact Mylio support. When you're ready to get rid of that sample library, all you have to do is click this remove sample library, and that's going to get rid of it. You notice the activities up here moving about. It's going through and it's deleting all traces of that. And I'm going to end up again with a blank library. And you don't have to do this before you add your own photos, but you might want to just so you have this clean slate. There we go. And now I'm going to go ahead and add a few photos so we can walk through that process together. So let's go ahead and add media. I want to add media accessible for this from this device. And I have another drive here called My Photos. And this just has a collection of a handful of my photos. I want to bring those in and use that to get started organizing in Mylio. So I'm going to click on that folder and choose Open. Now you have a few options here. If you're wanting to pull things off of old hard drives and get everything consolidated, there's a few different ways to think through this. You can copy those images, so you can have the copy on the old drive, leave them there, and have them copied to your Mylio library folder. You can move them, which physically moves them. It takes them off of your old drive and will put them into your Mylio library folder. Or you can link them. What this does is it lets Mylio know to watch the folder on that drive, but it doesn't move them. It will synchronize the photos from this drive into your vault, but the originals will stay where they are and Mylio will continue to watch that location. So I'm going to choose link them and choose link now. And we're going to bring in these images into Mylio Photos. So we'll give it a moment. You can see up here at the top, it's thinking, and I've got some indications here. So I've successfully added. I'm going to go ahead and clear those. And let's go over here to folders. And it just sometimes takes a moment for things up. There it goes. So now you can see the activities is moving. And I've now added this drive called My Photos as a linked folder, and it's bringing in all of those images. You'll see it's building previews and all sorts of things. If I go here to the sync panel and expand devices, expand activity, I can get a bird's eye view here of what's going on with Mylio Photos. So I can see all of my devices, I can see the sync status, and I can see what activity is happening right now. And this is a great way to stay on top of knowing that things are backed up and put where you want them. So let me jump over here to the dashboard and just show you a couple of differences. When I added the new hard drive, I added that as a vault, and that's going to want everything. This old drive over here, it doesn't have enough room for me to be adding additional stuff to it. I just wanted to link the pictures that were there and have Mylio watch that. So you can see that one does not have the indication of a vault. It just has those pictures that I just added. So you're going to see both drives and those designations there. And I just wanted to give you an idea of what those meant. Let's see here. Marilyn says, I'm curious about the pros and cons between those three options. So I'm thinking you're asking about link, copy, and move. It really depends on what your end goal is. If your end goal is to consolidate everything into a single drive, let's say you've got 3 or 4 hard drives and you don't want to use 3 or 4 hard drives anymore. You got one big one and you want to get everything there. Copy or move is probably the best in that scenario. That'll let you get everything off of those drives, and then you can reformat them, get rid of them, whatever you want to do, and have everything centralized on your vault, which is going to be this one right here. Now, if you already have an established library, let's say you're already fairly organized with at least a good portion of your library, maybe you use a tool like Lightroom also to edit. Well, with Lightroom, that's already looking at a series of folders. If you move those folders, Lightroom will become disconnected from those images, and it can cause all sorts of problems. So those are the times when it's best to link if you're not sure that there's other programs that are relying on those pictures where they live. Otherwise, copy and move are great options. I would encourage you to go ahead and check out in the manual. If we go up here to the manual and the how-to guide, we talk a little bit about adding media. So let's go ahead and jump in here. And we've got key terminology. We've got different ways to add media. And we go into some of the why between all of these different options. So I encourage you to jump in there and read a little bit more about it. And it should let you know which way you need to go. If you're still not able to figure it out, join the community and then come over here to the Mylio Photos Quick Questions. Let us know what you're thinking and we'll kind of hash it out together. All right. Go ahead and get those marked. Perfect. All right, let me jump back over the presentation and see if there's anything that I've missed here. All right, we talked about all the different areas in Mylio. We talked about the sync panel. We talked about the help menu. I think one location that I didn't mention is when you're using Mylio, if you want to get to certain options. So let's say there's this image and I want to do something with it. There's a lot of options in the right-click menu, but if you're on a touch device or you don't have a right-click option, you can always get to those options by the actions menu down here in the bottom right. And we did briefly talk about the more menu here. This is also in addition to where you find things like annotation. This is where you find our main program settings. So that's a good location to know about. Let's see, what else have we got? All right, we talked about adding photos. Mylio is available to work on Windows, Mac OS, Android, and iOS, and any combination thereof. I've had my library working simultaneously on my 2 Macs, a Windows computer, an Android phone, an iPhone, an iPad, and you can use as many devices as you want once you have a paid account and on the trial. So you can add all your devices, all your photos, bring all your photos in from every single device and every single source and get everything into one central library that can then be read and browsed and organized from each one of those devices. It's incredibly fun and incredibly powerful. So with that, I've thrown a lot of information at you today. I know it's a lot to take in. I hope it was helpful. If you need additional help, we talked a little bit about the in-app help menu in the product manual. I showed you where to find the quick start guide. You can also find that inside the manual as well. We talked about the community. I hope to see you all there. It's a very fun place to hang out. We also have a support forum. The support forum is where some of our more techie users hang out, and it's also monitored by our engineers and product team. So if you want to get really technical and dive into some of the why behind Mylio, or talk to some of our power users that have come up with very unconventional ways to use the software, that's a fun place to hang out. But for most people, the community is going to be, a much friendlier place. Not that the forum's unfriendly, it's just very technical. If you have questions about pre-purchase, let's say you're considering buying Mylio, but you're just not sure yet, make sure you check out our FAQs. That's got a lot of questions and answers, just things that we hear from a lot of people as they're getting ready to make a decision. And if you need help, if you're having an issue with the program crashing or something is behaving in a way that you think is not quite right, please reach out to our support team. They can take a look at your logs, they can investigate the situation, and they are awesome. They will bend over backwards to make sure everything gets taken care of for you. So I encourage you to get in touch with them. If you want to get a quick link to all of these links that I put on the screen, you can go ahead and scan that QR code that's up there, and that'll take you to a page in our community that has all of these links. So you can get to them easily, and then you can just bookmark it from there. Give you a couple more seconds. And I don't see any more questions in the Q&A or in the chat.